Professor Ajay Kumar Ray, who is the former director of IIEST, and and before that he was the director of School of Management Medicine School of um, this medicine medical technology, IIT Kharagpur. We have also panelists, three panelists apart from keynote speech by Professor Ajay Roy. We are here three panelists. One is Mr. Dev Kumar Roy. He is associated with this IT security initiative projects and managing large team across global for multinational organizations. His overall IT experience is more than 22 years, and he is particularly experienced in data center implementation and management and certified with so many other issues related to security. We have another panelist, Mr. Kaushik Ganguly. He is working with Cisco Systems as Security Architect for Customer Delivery Organization. He has more than 23 years of experience. He is certified blockchain engineer and many other. He is associated with CII as co-chairs and entrepreneurship of 2020 and member of STAR, NASCOM, and so on. He is also certified in data analytics of IIM Calcutta. The final panelist there with us, Mr. Rajiv Bhatnagar. He is partner of in the dispute resolution practice group in the New Delhi office of Khaitan and Company. White collar crime, he is related to white collar crimes, including offense under various specialized criminal statutes such as Prevention of Corruption Act, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, Information Technology Act, and so on. And our moderator, Mr. Niru Thompson, already introduced himself. So I'd like to request Mr. Niru Thompson to take over the charge to conduct the seminar, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's again an honor to be here as a moderator amongst you all and all the panelists and the distinguished dignitaries that we have in the program. So I would just like to start with Professor Ajay Kumar Roy. If you have an introductory presentation, if you would like to share that with us, please, related to cybersecurity.
Sir, you are not audible. Please unmute from your screen.
I am not audible?
Yes, now you are audible, sir.
Now you are audible. You can carry on now. Huh? Yes, you are audible.
Am I audible?
Please carry on.
Okay. And then my PPTs can be
visible? It is. We can view that. Make it full screen. Yes, it is.
Okay. So, very good afternoon to all the participants. At the outset, let me thank the Institution of Engineers because of the fact that maybe that knowingly or unknowingly, this is a very important year so far as cybersecurity is concerned, because it is possibly the 50th year of the first virus, which was a very, not harmful virus, but then a very funny virus, which was first used in the realm of the digital world that we call today. So on this 50th year, that the Institution of Engineers, they have organized this program, is very interesting. What I decided was when I talked to Nirmal, Mr. Nirmal Das, the chairman, so he said that you just, go on the surface, because cybersecurity is such an important area where we are offering, 2-semester courses on cybersecurity. So what I decided and what I was advised was just to go through the preliminaries of the cybersecurity. So with that in mind, the first thing that came to my mind was how to was, let us have a small look at the history of cybersecurity, because I'm really a fan of history simply because of the fact that how the things have developed is very important to know for the present generations, workers and scientists, so that you will find that, okay, how to take the path tomorrow. To start with, at the time of when, John von Neumann, whom we consider the father of the present day computer systems, so he predicted about the problems related to security sometime in the late 1940s. So this is very interesting that a person who was the father of the whole stored program computing that was first talked about by John von Neumann, and he had also you know given the directions to so many areas which usually are not known to today's computer scientists. I thought that I should make a mention of that. But then, those days, computers were almost non existent to say. But then, the whole lot of such, the networked computer system, it originated from US Defense, a project which was known as ARPANET. Now, in that ARPANET project, in 1971, for the first time, one group, just very funny, it was not very serious kind of a thing. So they, circulated a small message: I am the creeper, catch me if you can. Now, nobody had the idea that what it is. And then all those small number of computers, not very small, but then small in today's respect, they were all, getting, everybody in the morning was getting this message: I am the creeper, catch me if you can. So unknowingly, they wrote a program which was a type of computer virus that replicates itself. So from one machine to another, everybody started getting this: I am the creeper, catch me if you can. So again, one of the, possibly the first virus that was created, but then it was harmless and it was just a fun virus. So unlike today's malicious viruses, this was only a display message. In 1972, an American computer programmer, he was also working on the technologies in these areas. He saw the idea, and then he tried to create a program which will be self-replicating. And this kind of a self-replicating virus is known as the worm. So in general, so there was a concept of program Reaper. Earlier in 1971, I talked about. So Reaper was the first virus and the first antivirus software. Very small piece of code which found copies and then which could take care of this self-replicating, virus. These are all fun things today, but then imagine that what had happened those days. In 1977, the first cryptographic communications that was given by, this is one of the most important algorithms even today, which is known as Rivest, Summit, and Edelman algorithm. These three people from MIT, they had first developed the algorithm which is known as for cryptographic algorithm. I will come to cryptography slightly later. And they applied for US patent, and they received the patent in 1983. Although remember that they had developed this RSA algorithm at least 5 years before, 77, 78. So this was the basic and the most important work on the cryptography or the cyber security today. And this is sort of the bedrock of cyber security. And, you will be surprised to know that even after almost 40 years, this RSA algorithm is one of the most important algorithms, and this is still being used in internet for ensuring more and more of the security. After 1983, a serious situation, it arose in 1988 that there was a gentleman, Robert, and he wanted to check the size of the internet. 88, there was internet, there was no www, World Wide Web. Many people, they confuse the two. But then in that internet, he wanted to know that what is the size of the internet. That means how many such machines are connected in the internet. So what he did was to have an idea about that. His program went through the network and it started invading all the Unix terminals those days. And his program was popularly known as Morris Worm. His name was Robert Morris. And this was the first such kind of things. What happened in as a result was this could infect. He wanted just to infect every computer. It was harmless infection. But then the whole internet, it suddenly became very slow because it was infecting one machine after another. And it slowed down the machines eventually to the point of almost, becoming absolutely, out of order. So it was this gentleman, Robert Morris, who was first charged under the Computer Fraud and Abuses Act. And that was in 1988. So in a sense, he was the first man who was charged for developing some malicious code. And then he was the first man in the world who was charged under the Computer Fraudulence and Abuse Act. So this is interesting. But then today, if you just go back, 88 means almost 30 years back. That was very funny. In 1993, this is very important that the first international conference, DEFCON, on cybersecurity technical conference that was organized in Las Vegas in United States in 1993. And the organizer was Jeff Moss. As usual, like many other areas, MIT was at the forefront of majority of the developments that took place in this area as well. In 1994, by the 1995, by that time, the internet, emails, World Wide Web, those had not only come, but then it came in a very big way. In India also, I remember in 89, 90, I was in England. And then there was no concept of emails. My friends used to send emails in Europe. But then in India, there was no email. And for the first time in Bombay, the gateway was started. As far as I remember, it was in 90 or 91. Somebody may correct me. So for the first time, for ensuring security of the information transmission, a secured socket layer was added to the internet protocol. Because, all these vulnerabilities, everything it's associated with internet. So Netscape, they were the developers of SSL, that is Secure Socket Layer Protocol, which is still being used. And in February 1995, Netscape released, I think, SSL 2.0 and for securing the web. And if you find today, HTTP, everybody is aware of this term. If you see HTTPS, that means it's a secured hypertext transfer protocol. So please ensure that before you just look into any kind of site, whenever you see HTTPS, S means that it's secured. So you are you are at much more at much less vulnerable situation to access that. In 2003, again, for the first time, a set of, I should say, real anarchic gang came. And in 2003, they started, now this group of, hackers, as we call them, they did not have any leader, but then they represented majority of the offline and online, these community users. Everybody was using, but then this group, they were wearing the musket of one, some fox. And the group gained national attention in America, and they hacked several websites. And what they did was anonymously, this group, one of the most notorious groups, they started a new kind of attack, which was distributed denial of service attack. I'll again come to that slightly later. After 2003, in 2010, as time progressed, lot of such attackers and such hackers, they flooded. And in fact, in China, there was one such major breach of the infrastructure. And people thought that those who were doing the Chinese human rights activity those days, possibly their, websites, etc., they were hacked. But later on, the intelligence services of US, they found something else. I'm not going into those political things. And as you know that in recent years, a huge number of such breaches of the mainly in the business houses, in defense, in healthcare, everywhere, it has become a menace. So in recent years, Target is a very big, American multinational, this chain, this storehouse, Anthem, Home Depot, Equifax, including even Yahoo and all, they were hacked because they had some of the machines which are compromised machines. I'll come to the whole issues slightly later on. So gradually stringent regulations started coming to protect everybody's privacy, citizens' privacy, business people's, the business, peacefully so that they can conduct the business, and to clear the entire cyberspace of such hackers. So a lot of stringent regulations on which I'm sure that not only in government sector, in business sector, in industry sector, everywhere. So the hackers who were very active, let's call them as hacktivists. Now it's a very difficult scenario. On the one hand, the hackers are becoming more and more powerful. And on the other hand, the people who are with, are the scientists, the well-meaning people, a lot of them are working on the security, areas. And I will again explain later on how the hackers' activities can be, modeled, and how the machine intelligence, which is one of the most important areas driving almost all the activities of human endeavor, they are again being used, very massively in developing the new type of, cyber security schemes. So a very interesting study by risk-based security, it says that a huge amount of almost, in the first 9 months of 2019, there had been a huge amount of, records which have been exposed by data breakers. And this number was almost, I mean, in some place I found that 90% of the new businesses are being hacked. And this figure was double than the corresponding records which were exposed in 2018. So every year is getting double. So we must be very, very careful under the situation. Now let's see that how does a hacker come and how does it access the system? So the first thing is that there is front door access. A thief may come through your front door, and front door access means what? Your machine is there, you have got a password. So there are two ways in which one can crack your password. One is they can guess your password. That's why all the time it is being advised that please keep your password quite long, so that it cannot be guessed so easily. And password stealing, in fact, even if you have a bigger password, longer password, still then there are techniques by which the password can be found out. So it's not only just guessing, because those criminals, they are very, very sharp and they are doing their everything, and lots of interesting things are there. I'm not going into it. But the more important thing is not the front door access, but the back door access. So the thieves may come through your back door. What is the back door? Back door means that the developer keeps it open for development or for debugging. When a machine is being developed, it is for the future debugging of certain things. Remember that the developers, they keep certain things as open, and a hacker who knows about this, he will be very easily getting the access. There are a lot of other kinds of backdoor accesses. Backdoor access or backdoor virus or such kinds of software can be generated by, for example, the Trojan. Trojan you can download and install from the internet inadvertently. Many of us, many a times, we have been attacked because we have downloaded. So do not download anything from the internet without being sure. And downloading is a very dangerous task. So I will again come to backdoor access, because this is the more important type of access to the computer by which the hacker can enter. Software vulnerability. There are, when they develop the software, they again will notify every type of hardware and software, there will be some vulnerability. What happens is that developers, they will also notify the security patches, and you have to use those security patches for plugging in the software vulnerability. Most of us, we do not care or we do not know. So this is a big issue and a big problem. Since we do not care and we do not know about it, but then the hackers, they are quite aware of that. So through this vulnerability also, the hackers can get access to your system. Now, what does the hacker do once they access the infrastructure? Let us first understand that what is meant by the computing infrastructure. But before that, the first thing what they will do is that they will modify the log file. For example, in your machine, whosoever is using, so there's a log file which they will modify so that nobody comes to know that the hacker has come and it has stolen something. Okay? So modifying the log file. Then they will try to steal the files. Again, stealing the file means there are some hackers, they will only take they can only steal your files, but then they may not do a lot of harm to it. They may modify the files. This is more dangerous, because whatever are the files, they can modify them. Here I have written that they may install the backdoor. This is the most important thing. A hacker, his code may install the backdoor virus so that others can get the entry through the backdoor, and then they can attack other systems. So in so many ways, a hacker can do harm to your infrastructure. Let's see again the backdoor attack. So remote access is granted through backdoor, and then what do? Attacking the system or the infrastructure means what? Attacking means it can attack your database, your file server, all your web server, mail server. It can do havoc in your entire system. Suppose you have got an enterprise, a business house. It can gradually take control of almost all the machines. So by that, they can not only do the data stealing or data theft, many times you will find that they can deface your website. You are from an institution, one fine morning you find that your website has been completely modified and something, dangerous kind of modification which will, be sort of an attack on your goodwill of the business, on your own goodwill, etc. So website defacing is very common. They may hijack your server. What do? All kinds of servers they can hijack. And once they hijack, you can't do anything. We can do many things. I will come to that again later on. Then they launch distributed denial of service. So denial of service is, this term will be used many times. I will rather use it, explain it in just after 2-3 slides. What is this? Because this is one of the most important harmful effects of the attack. Infect the website visitors. Not only that they can infect your own website, but your website is being visited by so many other people. Now even they can be infected by this. It is in fact, this computer, hackers and the viruses, they are no less dangerous than the coronavirus. So actually scenarios are becoming more and more difficult. Then the typical threats are compromised IoT devices. Now what is this IoT? The major problem is coming because of huge amount of data which is getting generated every day. Imagine that in the year 2020 only, we had created the amount of data throughout which is more than what was created from the time of inception till 2019. So it's a earlier we used to call about terabytes, petabytes. Now we call about zettabytes. 22 zettabytes of data only in 2020, early 2020. Huge. The problem is that so much of data, so there are threats and a lot of such data, they are vulnerable and they may be stolen or they may be defaced, they may be modified, and a huge amount of work can be done on that. So how it can be done? And then moreover, it is not only that we have got only the human beings in the internet. Currently we have got more number of the devices, the sensors which are connected to the internet. Tomorrow your dogs will be, your domestics will be connected to the internet. So it's very interesting that internet, it has now come to the stage, we call it Internet of Things. That is, if, for example, the total number of humans who are connected with the internet is about say 6 billions now, if I assume, it's slightly less than that. That means even if I assume that all the people on earth are connected to the internet, say about say 6.8 or maybe 7 billions within 3-4 years, then there are more than 40 billions of people who will be connected to the internet, devices who will be connected to the internet within next 3 to 4 years. That means 6 times all the human beings who are connected to the internet. Now such a huge number of devices, sensors, computers, mobiles, your gadgets, everybody on the average within 5 years will have 6.5 so many devices which will be connected to the internet. So computers will be used by hackers to launch, because everybody wants the services from the servers. And then this denial of service is a very important piece of menace to the entire, IT cyberspace community, which the hackers they make use of. Now, what are the major problems? Threats: insecure web services. Our web services, the web server is not secure. Our network services are not. Network is the most important thing. I'll come to again slightly later on. Insecure network services, because it's internet. All the computers are connected through some network. Lack of appropriate encryption. So data cannot be simply, or the message cannot be simply, stored and communicated and transmitted just like that. It needs encryption. So this encryption at the sender's level and decryption when the data in the form of packets or message, it reaches the destination person will decrypt that. Insecure cloud interface. Everywhere there is interface between your computer, then the routers as we call it, routers to the gateways to the internet to the cloud. Everywhere there is insecurity. So many, you have to know about the entire cyberspace to understand that what are the threats and where are the threats. It's very interesting, extremely interesting, but it takes a lot of time to really understand that there are so many insecurities at so many places. Insufficient security configurations in many places, because the people, the organizations, they have not given sufficient attention to these things. Insecure software or firmware, even in hardware, insecurity also is very important. So there are, this is the potential targets of attack by a hacker. Endpoints. Endpoints are your own computer is an endpoint. The sensors, for example, nowadays in many houses, you have got the sensor means, say, for example, the light on off, you have got the security breaches, you have got the fire sensor. In the industry, there are so many sensors. So these are the sensors which are all endpoints. Okay. Then from the endpoints to the gateway, remember that everywhere when data gets transmitted, it just doesn't get transmitted just like that from one machine to another. It is transmitted, suppose thousands of miles away. You are sending some message to your friend who is sitting in USA. Through several machines which are known as routers. Routing is very, very important thing. At every phase of that router, there is some kind of security lapse, and there is a potential, that's a target of attack by the hackers. Gateway. Gateway means with one gateway, several hundreds of sensors can be connected. Hundreds of your mobile, say mobile. Mobile is again another endpoint. So everywhere, so through the gateway again is one point where the hackers can target. Internet, then cloud. Cloud, today, even in the cloud also, people, they feel that there is huge amount of, security lapses in the cloud. Not so far, but then tomorrow, the hackers are now, they're already finding a lot of, so security in the cloud data services is becoming a very, very important area. A lot of people are working in IBM, in many such places. So then there are agencies, agents. Agents have got password. So everywhere, everybody has got the password. So there may be the targets of attack from the hackers, and they can enter through any point. Like corona, you do not know where from it will come to your humans. It may come through your hands, it may come through your nose, your mouth. It can come through your eyes also, and then you do not know. You touch somewhere, it can come to you. So interestingly, these are the kind of problems here as well. So the attacks are, as I have shown, interruption attack by hacking the routers. So here is a source computer, destination computer. You want to transmit some message from source computer to destination computer. How do you transmit? Through, they are all routers. What are these routers? Routers are again computers through which your data goes. Remember that in internet, the data does not go like the whole message goes. It is segmented into the different type of packets, and we call it as, the packet messages will be segmented into packets, will be transmitted from one place to another. Interruption attack means what? Source A on the left side is going to send some message to destination. Destination computer, they didn't get your message. Why? Because it does not go straight to the destination. In between these routers, they can intercept your message, and either they can destroy the message or they can send it to some again odd way. Routers can do again a havoc. B is attack on confidentiality. From source to destination, you are sending can somebody, I do not know, that right side can you take out? How to do it? Because I have not used it. Anyway. So, yeah. So that this attack is on the confidentiality. The source sends the data to the destination, but in between the attacker is lying there. Attacker accesses the data, and then it changes the message altogether. That means it can change the message. We call it integrity of the message is attack. Whatever message you were sending to your friend, it will be completely modified and some other message will come to your friend. How dangerous it is. Authenticity attack. You have sent a message, so your authenticity, that means from where the data is coming, that the data, your friend should know that, okay, it has come from you. But your authenticity can be changed by the hacker. And then they can put some other, source address, and then they can send it. Confidentiality. That, the confidence is very important so far as the data transmission is concerned. So everything can be changed, and these are the kind of, now in this whole game, then there are problems on the access channel, there are problems on the gateway, and then as you can see, that the opponents are, who are the opponents in this whole cyberspace? Our opponents are our friends, another human being. But then those human beings, they are creating the virus. Now the virus, the worms, the different types of virus, let's say, they can again create lot of pieces of codes which can do much more. It's not that all the time a human being is sitting there and then creating problems to you. It is something like the virus itself can self-replicating virus. For example, we talked about the Trojan kind of things. Some virus they can change they can modify your message. So lots of different kind of things can be done. Encryption is very important thing. Encryption can be of two types. One is known as private key encryption. The other one is known as public key encryption. So private key encryption means encryption is something which the little children in the class, even in maybe that 5th, 6th standard, they may be using. So children are sitting in a class, they are finding that the subject is boring. So one friend, he writes a very boring class, and then sends the page to his fellow friend. So if the teacher can intercept, let me see what you have written. So teacher sees that he has written that it is very boring class. So the friends, they decide that I will send you a message encrypted. What does it mean? It may be shifted encrypting. Instead of V, I will write say 2 letters after V. That means say X I will write UVWX. E I will write G. After E FG. So it is a 2-letter shifted thing. So when the teacher next day comes, he cannot understand anything, whatever has been written. So this is known as a straightforward encryption. Now this encryption in this case, it is the simplest encryption which the young children can do. For example, your own your mail password, you can keep it as an encrypted password. In fact, it will be kept, so you need not worry. But even with you, you can keep your encrypted password somewhere, because a lot of people, they forget their password. Because I was, long time back, my Yahoo mail was hacked, and then the next day I had developed. My daughter had given me a very interesting password. I still remember that, but it's too big. So you can do the encryption. If you feel that you may forget sometimes, you can do the encryption. Every letter will be replaced by maybe 3 letters after that, or 3 letters before that, and it will be a circular encryption. If it is Z, after 3 letters means ABC. Z will be replaced by C, like that. So this is known as key. So while encrypting from the sender to the destination, you can encrypt your message, and that encryption can be private key encryption. That means, suppose I am there as a sender. I have got a message. Message here is known as plain text. This is a terminology that we use in encryption technology. Plain text. Plain text means what? The message. This message I am trying to send to my friend who is B. Now when I change that plain text or the message by my key, the simplest key, as I said, is simply you shift it. Otherwise, what you can do is that, why don't you change your ABCDs to the numbers A to Z is 1 to 26. There are lots of algorithms. You can write your entire message in a 2-dimensional. In fact, problem is I do not have any graphic pen here at home. Otherwise, I could have explained a lot of interesting things. So how you can encrypt your things using private key. Now private key means what? The sender. A is the sender, A tells to B that look, this is the way I will change my plain text, my message. So after plain text, whatever is available is known as cipher text. Cipher text means that this is After encryption, whatever is the thing that comes is ciphertext. Now, in between, there is a man who is sitting. And hello.
Sorry, can you please mute your line?
So, I mean, so there is a, in between there is a hacker. So hacker, it will try to take care of your ciphertext. Now, the hacker does not know that what is the key that you have used. That you have used a key that, okay, every letter will be replaced by 3 letters after that. This information is known to your friend who is at B. Okay, but not to anyone else on earth. Only I know and my friend knows. So this is known as, the private key encryption. So my friend B, what he will do is once he gets that ciphertext, which is the encrypted message, he knows that, okay, I have changed it by 3 letters, he will again go back by 3 letters, then he will get the actual message. So this is very interesting, but the hacker does not know that what is the key I have used. So this is the private key's main thing. Now let's see. This is a simple kind of example where from one sender to one receiver you are sending. Imagine that in a real life, in net, a big network, your message does not go straight to your friend, to your receiver. It goes via lots of routers, as I said. And at each router, they must know your keys. Okay, so suppose there are n number of such routers, then you can find out that you will require almost n into n minus 1 by 2, so many keys. So it's a huge number of keys, n squared complexity. So it will be almost, a problem which will be huge in case of a large number of routers, large number of points through which your message is going. So what to do? So there is again another kind of encryption. I am not going into detail of anything. There are hundreds of such private key encryption algorithms, and for every encryption there is a decryption algorithm also.
Yeah, Professor Roy, this is Nirupam Sen. If you can just brief it a little bit, because there are others as well in the panel, so we would also like to hear their.
Sorry. So how much time? How much time? I will.
We can take 5 minutes more, and then we can start off with the questions. With the others have been waiting for quite some time, so
okay,
you can take 5 minutes.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so this is encryption, decryption, and in public key, which is quite widely used. In fact, the RSA algorithm that I talked about earlier, that is also a public key encryption. In public key encryption, every plain text, every sender, receiver, they have got, and everyone in the entire network will have two keys. One is his own private key, which only the person will know, and a public key, which everybody else will know. So using this, a very interesting set of algorithms have been developed by which you can take care of the hackers, and then it will be easier for you to, to take care of the things. Anyway, the common thread vectors and what has to be done. One is the unauthorized access. Among the causes of unauthorized access is, as I said, that weak password. Please change your password, make it bigger, lacking protection, etc., etc. Distributed, this is something I have been constantly talking about. That is the denial of service attack. Denial of service means who will give you the service? The servers. So if the hacker can generate a huge number of, huge volume of data packets to the server, then the server will be overwhelmed. At the application level, there are some SQL server, SQL queries are there. So these SQL queries can be generated in such a huge number that the database will be absolutely overwhelmed. That what to do? You are requiring your service from the server, but the server cannot give you the service. It denies to give you the service because the hacker or the malicious program, which is in a distributed fashion, which has really, swarmed or it has flooded your server. Very false traffic at your network or servers. So these are very dangerous kind of things, which is known as denial of service. Man in the middle attack. So a man in the middle attack involves attackers who are intercepting between your network and external sites. External sites means either within your zone or elsewhere. I am not going into detail code and SQL injection attacks, as I said, privilege escalation. Somebody, some attackers, it can go into your network. Remember that your network is the most important thing. It's not your computer is important, but anywhere your computer is a part of the network. And any other computer, if they can be hacked, then remember that everybody, like in COVID, if in your neighborhood, if anybody has got COVID, everybody around him will be at a real problematic situation. So there are, privilege escalation. Every level there is a privilege. So the threats may be that some of these, pieces of malicious codes can take care of the privilege escalation, and they can not only they can infect the other machines, but then they can also go high up the privilege escalation. Insider threat is very important in a big institution. There are a lot of insiders who are the real threats. You do not know. He may be your friend in your organization system. So that's why now using machine intelligence, every user who is using the internet, etc., inside the organization, his behavioral analytics is being done. So this is again another very interesting area. I said that there are a lot of research areas also. How to take care of this? You segregate your network. That means in COVID, what we are doing? We are doing zoning, isn't it? In our locality, in our campus, there is some COVID patient. So police immediately will make a zone of our area. Here also, a part of the network security, if it is breached somewhere, then that part will be zoned. You segment that part so that the virus and this vulnerability does not go to the other zones. Other zones should be cut off, and then you can have a virtual local area network in my zone. So this is a complete zoning scenario. Regulate access to the internet via proxy server. Please ensure that in your organization, everybody must go through the proxy server, and which will be used to control and monitor whatever you are doing. So proxy servers are very important. So place security devices correctly, that is the firewalls, everywhere, at every router point, at every junction of the network zone. You must put a firewall. Firewalls are those codes which will not allow the malicious codes to enter your system in your organization or in your own, set of machines that you are using. So firewalls should be there at every network zones, at every, if possible, even the routers, so that you can have that real heavy network protection from the attackers. Use network address translation. Again, things will be little bit more, moving a bit fast. Sorry for that, for taking more time. So you should monitor the network traffic, because every moment there are now techniques by which you can monitor that how much traffic, how much amount of data goes through this network, at what time the traffic becomes maximum. So lots of statistical analysis needs to be done. So the whole area of cybersecurity today it is an ensemble of different areas. It is one has to know about the network, computer networks, the structure, internet. One has to know software. One has to know that how the networks can be protected. One has to know that the entire science of cryptography, how the cryptography can ensure that no matter the hacker, okay, he will be able to really decipher whatever you are trying to send. And for that, the RSA net, that algorithm, it uses a huge number, very big two prime numbers and their multiplication. I'm not going into the algorithm. If sometime later on, if there are a large number of people, if they want to know, I can talk about the way these things are implemented. Anyway, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And if there's any question, you can ask me or you can ask me later on also. So there are other speakers. I really beg apology from the other speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ajay Kumar Rai. It was great to hear such a detailed presentation from you. We will take some questions towards the end of the session, if at all time permits. But it's always
Okay.
good to hear as to how the organizations have progressed. We started with the 1940s when the organizations were kind of brick and mortar. Then we moved to the click and mortar organizations, wherein information was the lifeblood of the organizations. So as and when we became more and more dependent on information, cybersecurity also is a critical subject. In fact, cybersecurity as a subject has evolved a lot. It has gone to the all the layers of OSI 7-layer model. So it has gone to physical security, it has gone to the network layer, it has come to the data link layer. Everywhere you find cybersecurity, some component of cybersecurity. Let me ask Koshikda here. We are now going through a pandemic situation. The infections are going on increasing day by day. 70,000 infections on a daily basis. India recorded 12 lakh infections in August. So considering as the work from home, we have started working from home. So considering this pandemic and the work from home adoption, do you think that there has been any change in which the organizations need to handle cybersecurity?
Hey, thank you for this question. I think one of the most pertinent question in today's scenario. Yes, there has been a lot of changes across the globe because I talk to almost all the customers who are based out of APJC region and who follow almost all the European as well as American culture as well as the work practices, and I see that organizations who were never thought of taking their business home are primarily focusing on that how they can operate and continue their business from home, and that has led to multiple problems. One, if I categorize these two type of organization, one organization that is one type of organization, they are more habituated in putting their 30-40% workforce at home, like typical IT companies, like our company, 40 to 45% workforce is already working from home. That is the culture we have. We don't have any problem per se. The only challenge what we faced is the capacity. That how do you send 100% of the workforce from home and then build the workloads in the cloud. But quickly we can solve that problem. But the challenge with the second type of companies or organizations where they never or their entire business is on-prem. That is, every employee is going to office. There is a physical space. People are working from there and then coming back. Now, and they have never thought of, never planned for working from home culture. Now, for them, there are two challenges. One is that infrastructure readiness. That how do they allow people or their employees to work from home? For that, what do they need? Laptops, PCs, internet connection, software licenses, so on and so forth. At home also they are facing problem because there is no designated space from where they can work, like an office. That was the first challenge. The second challenge was the moment they start working from home, they expose their crown jewels, that is the data, okay, onto the internet, because every connection is going via internet, and since they have not planned, and business takes higher priority than data security, automatically the whole data is now open in the market. And if you look at the statistics, almost 600% rise of malware activity onto the internet post COVID scenario. So that's what my brief response, Nirupam, to your question.
Yeah, thank you, Koshika. We are in fact having a little bit shortage of time, so I'll have to alter my moderation accordingly as well. We'll come to a hard stop at 6:15. So the way I will take it forward is that let Devkumar Roy, who is the Associate Director of Cognizant, take us through these cyber threats and identification presentation, and then we'll again perhaps come to Koshika for his PPT slide deck. So Devkumar, you can start off.
Yeah, so thank you, Nirupam. Am I audible? And
Yes, you are.
can you
You are.
see my presentation
We can
slide
see
more?
your, yeah, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So, thanks a lot to everyone, and it's a privilege presenting this topic here. So, I'm going to, talk about cyber threats and mostly, the detection part of it. I thank Professor Ajay Ray for setting the, the platform, showing the history, the chronology of, cyber security. So, which helps my, job a little easier. So I'm going to quickly take you through considering the time constraint. So what is cyber threat? Types of cyber threat, mechanism of identification, and I have some few samples to show you like how the cyber threats look like. What is cyber threat? Okay, so I think Professor Ray has covered many of the cyber threats. So, but let me set the context in a way that threat is a perception; it's not a real attack. Okay, so when we talk about cybersecurity, the first term which comes to our mind is crime, correct? So whether it is a cyber crime or a real crime, it's basically anything which is unlawful and going to do harm to others is actually a crime. And when this crime happens, as you know, like more and more digitizations are happening. We are more accustomed with internet connecting devices, mobiles. So obviously we are part of the internet and as a whole cyberspace. And when there is cyber crime, that means unlawful activity in cyberspace, right? So that's the starting point. Now, to have a cyber crime, impacting us, we need an actor. So, who is that actor? Is a attacker, correct? So, who is basically, you can call him hacker or something, but in my perspective, he's attacking someone to conduct a particular crime. And anyone who is trying to attack, if I just think I want to attack a organization, I cannot be able to do so. For that I need intent, right? And of course I need some kind of motivation, and in most of the cases, as you know, like these cyber threats are increasing day by day, and this has become a industry as a whole, right? So there is a huge financial transaction involved. So motivation is mostly financial and economic, but at the same time, whenever there is a geopolitical, tension happens between countries, and the state actor starts, utilizing these attackers, so then that becomes, state-sponsored attacks, right? So that kind of motivation can also be there. But nowadays, just for fun, as earlier days, it's not like anyone is going to conduct a cyber attack. If I have intent and motivation, it's still not enough. I need skill. How to really penetrate to someone else computer or website or network. I need skill, and I need required tools, right? So once that is present, still the attack is not complete until I take a action which is actual attack that I target some particular device or server, and then it becomes a real attack. So for attacker, intent, motivation, skill, tools, and action is important. Now, this is a real scenario where someone is trying to access someone's website or network or server, and this is a real thing. But when we talk about threat, threat is a perception, right? So it's not like I am going to be attacked by someone, but I want to make sure that I can take necessary preventive action so that the attack is not successful, right? So from that perspective, threat is a perception. So that means what is the likelihood of someone attacking infrastructure which I am managing or my organization is managing with a attacker with intent, motivation, skill, tools, and action, right? Now, threats can be two types. One is intentional, another is unintentional. Intentional, we are very much, aware that, when there is an attacker or hacker is trying to hack in. Sometimes, unintentionally also, we disclose, certain information, and that becomes also a threat. Sometimes, even a device failure becomes a threat, right? Say, for example, I have implemented a firewall, but that firewall is not working and allowing all the traffic from outside to inside, compromising my network. So that kind of unintentional threat is also there. But however, threat is not a real attack; it is just a perception. Now, when a threat is successfully exploiting a vulnerability, so what is the vulnerability? Vulnerability is the weakness of the system, which is inherent of the system. It can happen in two ways. One is that as Professor Roy said, that there could be bug in the coding, programming of the system, and there could be another way of creating a vulnerability is misconfiguration. Like we are configuring something. Like for example, password. It's not a coding issue, right? If I give a weak password, that is a configuration issue, and that becomes also vulnerability. So when a threat successfully exploits a vulnerability, it becomes it is successful in compromising a particular asset. It could be anything: network, system, endpoint, website, anything. And then what we do is that we try to figure out, like when, if this particular asset, a particular asset is getting compromised, what is going to be its value? If it is not available, or the confidentiality or integrity or the availability of the system is compromised, what is going to be the impact? So with the value and the impact, we derive a risk value. And this risk value is again perceived. It's not like someone already attacked us and we have lost a couple of our servers or network. It's just a perceived risk. So if you really try to calculate how risk is value. Now, as I said that the threats are two different type of intentional and unintentional types. So what are the most common threats that we can see? Web defacement, data theft, phishing attack, ransomware attack, DDoS, as Professor Roy was mentioning a couple of times, distributed denial of attack. So this kind of threats are intentional. Unintentional is data disclosure. I do not want to really disclose something, but because of my unawareness, I have disclosed certain data misconfiguration, and of course device failures. So if you see, if there is no attack, still the perception of threat and the perceived risk remains, and we always need to work on these two factors: threat and risk and vulnerability, these three factors, so that we can take necessary action to prevent any kind of cyber attack to be successful. for our environment. Now, so threat remains. Now, when we talk about threats, we actually talk about different type of threats. Okay, so this is basically I'm trying to explain how you differentiate different type of threats. Now, just think about it. If you know what is the threat, that means you know, like, this is a particular threat, and then you also know that what I need to do to prevent that threat to be successful, right? So that means aim for mitigation. So D for detection, M for mitigation. So one category of threat is that detectable and mitigation is also known. There is another type of threat where we know the threat, but we do not know how to prevent it, right? So, basically mitigation is unknown. Now coming to the other type of threat, where threat itself is not known, but somehow I know some form of mitigation, right? So which is a little confusing, as such, but we keep it in this format so that we do not miss anything in that way. And then, of course, one type of threat, the most important type of threat, where we do not know how to detect that threat, and we also don't know what is the mitigation technique for preventing that particular threat. So let me give some example. Say, for example, first category, there is a malware which is known, and we know what is called a defined IOC, indicator of compromise. It could be coming through a particular mail or through a particular file, and then eventually infecting a machine. So in that perspective, we have a defined indicator of compromise, and then we also using a anti-malware software in my machine, and I have the up-to-date I have the up-to-date signature for that. So we are good there. So detection is known, mitigation is known. What happens when I know something which detection is known, that malware I have come to know that this is this penetrates through this particular email or this kind of file, but my malware doesn't have that signature. So that's a difficult situation, right? So here the strategy would be is containment, right? As Professor Roy was telling, that containment, here we do not know how to mitigate. You just consider the COVID situation. We know the threat, but we do not know how to mitigate. And if there are any unknown threat which we do not know, what type of threat, we do not have ability to detect, but we can actually adopt certain kind of best practices which we need to follow all the time, so that we can avoid such kind of threats. And wherever we don't know anything about the threat and the mitigation, that's a real challenge and a real problem that we have to figure out. So we always try to go from one particular category to another category. So the ideal category we would like to stay is the first category, right? So we want to know, we want to be in the category where we know the threat and also the mitigation is also known. And this is the job of cybersecurity analysts to continuously figure out the detection methodology and the mitigation technique, so that we always remain on this first quadrant. So a D for detection, M for mitigation, and IOC is indicator of compromise. And quickly, going through the next slide. So here I am just trying to tell you, type of threats. So phishing is one of the most important type of threat, that is through which the malwares are delivered, because nowadays people are aware, and they are putting every control. So direct attack from the network or from the internet is becoming difficult. So we are trying to figure out, or the hackers are trying to figure out the weakest point, which is the end user, and they are trying to penetrate through end user points through phishing attacks. Ransomware, I'm very sure that you have already heard, where the data gets encrypted and the hacker demands ransom. Cloudjacking, now all the devices are going, all the servers, we are moving towards the cloud. Getting cloud compromised is another big threat. Deepfake, this is a new type of threat that we are facing. It's basically changing the different type of video and audio, or the photographs, and making sure that false news is propagating across the social media. And we never thought about our mobile phone. However, we are all using mobile apps. Even banking transactions are done on mobiles. So now mobile malwares are becoming a very big threat. And of course the DDoS. So here I just complement a little more on the DDoS. There are two type of DDoS. One type is on the application layer, where the sync flood can be done through distributed agents. And another thing is which is volumetric, where you pump a lot of data over a particular internet link, so that that link gets choked and the services through that particular link gets disturbed. IoT, of course, because all the new cars, they are coming with IoT devices. All the electric meters are becoming IoT enabled. Even the normal air conditioning in our house are also having IoT. So IoT compromise is becoming a bigger threat. Now with the advancement of 4G to 5G, and usage of Wi-Fi has increased so much that the threats are also increased in Wi-Fi layer. Cryptojacking, as like nowadays cryptocurrencies are getting used, and the hackers are actually trying to get those cryptocurrencies, and they do crypto mining. So that's a big threat nowadays. And as you all know, this is a very recent phenomenon. Last 4-5 months, most of the workforce are working from home, and their endpoints are getting hijacked. And advanced persistent threat, where the same malware change its strain, and a new malware gets propagated, so that your current antivirus or anti-malware cannot detect that. And of course insider threats, where some internal employee is trying to do sabotage or leaking the data outside. Now let me show you a sample example of a phishing email, where this particular email is telling that this web app has recently been subject to security modifications, so you need to change your password or validate your account so that you can log in and validate. And this particular link is going to take a different website altogether, which is a false website, and it will steal your credential. Through that, the attacker or hacker can gain your user ID and password. Another example is like this kind of email. I'm sure all of us get in our personal mails, that it has come from a fraud phishing email, saying that this is from Visa, and it is actually trying to blackmail, saying that if you do not update, your Visa card will be temporarily disabled. And if you fall under the trap, you might log into this particular site, and you will share your credit card or debit card number and password. You might have seen this kind of SMS alerts nowadays because of COVID-19. And if you actually go to this particular link, it will ask for information, and it is going to collect your information, though it is saying it is from government, but you can very much understand this is a phishing SMS. Similarly, from a organization perspective, this kind of phishing mail may pop up, which says the COVID coronavirus doesn't have a vaccine, but there is a secretly developed vaccine available. So if you want to get information about it, please log into this particular site, right? So this is phishing threat through which the users are getting trapped and sharing their information. Now, when you are sharing the information, doesn't mean that your individual information is getting compromised. Maybe you are sharing certain information which also exposes your organization. Now, coming to another threat, which is ransomware. Some example I would like to give. I'm sure many of you have seen this, that this particular malware encrypts all your data in your hard disk, and it actually says that if you want to access those data further, you have to pay a lump sum amount of ransom. This kind of message you will get in the folder if that folder is encrypted, and you need to go to this unique ID to communicate with the hacker, and there the negotiation on the financials will be decided. Nowadays, the mobile phones are getting also encrypted. So this is one of the example where you see the mobile phone itself got encrypted, and it is asking for money. So now I'm trying to conclude with the strategy. Okay, so these are some of my strategies. Okay, the common sense detection, right? I call it common sense detection. So most important is awareness, like how the attacker is trying to fool us, putting us in the trap, gaining the critical information, and then utilizing that information. They are trying to compromise our organization's infrastructure. So awareness is very important. Development of skills, right skill in terms of cybersecurity is very important from a detection strategy perspective, because if you do not have skilled people, you'll never able to detect any sophisticated cyber threat. Control greed. Most of the time, we see advertisement that something is available for free, and we click the link, right? So my point is, we have to control our greed. Nothing comes free. So we need to understand, if something is coming free, there is underlying, some concern that I have to think about what I am losing if I want to get something free. You have to remain always vigilant, and you have to ask, is the URL known? Is the email ID known? If the system is slower than usual, internet speed is slower than usual, did I last log in here, and when did I log in? Some unusual files you might find in your folder with some different type of extension which you never created. Some file disappeared suddenly. So these are indications that some compromise or some cyber attack is in progress, and if you can detect it much more faster, you'll be able to prevent it. Now, from an organization standpoint, if you really want to do some advanced level of detection, you have to go through a threat modeling process where you figure out all the data components or asset components, that what is important in your digital environment, and then how they are accessed, who is accessing, and what is the data flow, and in that flow, where the weakest link there through which a hacker can come in, right? Similarly, you have to continuously do a IT security assessment and threat hunting. So become a hacker and try to figure out that which path a particular attack can generate, and get compromise my system. Lastly, take some proven mechanism. Log analysis, rightly said by Professor Roy, that log is very important. Whenever some activity is happening on a system, whether it's a network or infrastructure, logs are generated. So if we can actually read the log, we get more information about any attack that is actually in progress. see, if there is no attack, nobody is touching you, you do not get any log. But attack doesn't really become successful in a single day, right? It takes 2 to 3 months time to actually compromise particular system. So throughout that time, there are logs which you can do analysis and figure out what is happening. So more advanced environment should go for a security monitoring we call SOC. There you have a next generation SIM system, security event information management system, which actually collects all the logs, does vulnerability monitoring. Then it can create event correlation, like which file is moving from which machine to which machine, and what is the the threat vector there. Data analytics, um, machine level learning for behavior analysis, and red team activity. Red team activity is just like behave like a hacker and try to get into the system and see whether the the preventive systems or monitoring system is responding or not. Now, let me give some example of detection through logs. I am not very sure whether you are able to see it or not. So this particular log is showing that a continuous password breaking attempt is happening for the root of the system through SSH. But the most important thing is that the time, it is trying every 2 seconds, right? Which is humanly not possible. Say for example, if I give a bad password, I will be surprised. I cannot give it the password again within 2 seconds, and then third time also 2 seconds. So this is showing that some brute force password breaking attempt is happening. So why this log is important? Because if this log goes back to your security monitoring system, it will alert you that something is happening. Similarly, if you see this particular thing, Sir rightly pointed out, the SQL injection. So this is a log where we can see different type of SQL commands are getting executed to fool the system and extract data. The last one, this is about a DOS attack where UDP traffic, as you know, right, TCP is much secure than UDP, and mostly bulk data transfer happens on UDP. And if you see here, the UDP data is actually trying to choke the network, and this can be also detected through the logs. So with that, I'm actually done with my presentation. So thank you very much. Ready to take any question right now or later. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Dekumar. We'll take the questions towards the end of the session. That's better because Mr. Kaushik Nath also has his presentation, because analytics is a very important part of cybersecurity. So I'm sure, Kaushik, you would share certain security threat intelligence collection as well as analytics data. So Kaushik, over to you.
If the presentation is visible, Nirupam?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So, I know Professor Roy and Dev Kumar later on set the platform pretty well in terms of where the cybersecurity is going, how it was, it was introduced. So I will take it to a different, look at it from a different angle. So one of the key thing about cybersecurity is that to analyze the current situation and then take or decide what is going to happen and how we are going to tackle those from a business point of view, from a security point of view, from a growth as well as productivity, so on and so forth. So one of the most important part why we are discussing this is to identify. What we are identifying is the opportunities. What are the opportunities we have in terms of growing the security market from a business point of view, as well as our course of action. Where do we need to take it? Like the Kumar mentioned about having policies, security policies in place. So do I know that what kind of threat I have, and related to that, what kind of policies do I need? Similarly, next is create. Create is the new avenue for growth. That how am I going to grow in terms of business, in terms of team size, in terms of capabilities, okay, security, cyber security capabilities, so on and so forth. And thirdly, changes, like I mentioned about post COVID scenario, workspace scenario, like businesses are adopting work from home or remote working culture. So this, we need to know that when in what kind of situation business should transform or build a culture of transformation. Last but not the least, the defocus. Now defocus is very important when you are passing through a challenging time. You need to prioritize things. Okay, probably pre-COVID there were some priorities, but post-COVID the priority has completely changed. So you have to defocus from those early priorities and then focus into a new thing. So quickly, I will touch upon four key trends what is happening in cybersecurity, which will change the industry 2020 beyond. So first thing is, cyber risk is becoming more and more equal to the business risk. Now, if you know, very popular, because I have seen the other side of the IT when I was head of IT in some organization, and I used to always hear that we are the cost center. And IT at that time was IT plus security. So those things have changed over a period of time, and now security has got into the boardroom. That is a pretty good thing, because now the security leaders who used to be typical technical people can now speak business language. Okay, they can explain the security terms, the KPIs in a much more lucid manner to the business guys, and so that they get convinced and they start realizing. Think of a situation like a bank. 10 years back, all the banks used to have some computers lying on the sideline. They used to be just either down or not working or something like that. Today, if you go and look at the bank operation, even a 1 second downtime of their IT system will completely take their business down. That is the kind of transformation happening in the bank. So cyber risk is equal to business risk. It is going to be more and more proven. So look at this. Look at some of the data. Like 90% of the organization, they say that in a yes, the security threats are going to be worsened in 2020 and beyond. But the surprising fact is that 52% of the organization do not believe that they are ready to counter the cyber attack. And that's where the opportunity is. Like we are discussing, cybersecurity skills are one of the most sought after skills in last 5 years and coming 5 years, and that is where this particular data proves its point. And if you look at the other side, like we did a CISO benchmarking survey in 2020, and the result was that when you put this particular type of data, where I am, the data which is hosted on the screen is basically showing you that how quickly we are detecting a particular threat. That is time to detect. Okay, all the IT leaders or security leaders are focusing into the time to detect, because that's where you detect a particular threat. But business leaders are more focused into time to remediate, because business leaders know no matter what software, hardware you put in place, security to control security threats and all, nothing can give you 100% reliability. So if it is not 100%, then there are some malwares are going to get into my organization. So security team should focus into how quickly in that kind of situation you can remediate the issue. So this is a very interesting data points to look into the same thing from two different angle. And as a security professional, we need to understand and support and align with the business, not with the technology. Technology is part of that, but ultimately it is business which is going to survive and support the technology cost and people cost and process cost. Let's go into the second important trend or analysis is what is going, who is going to challenge the cybersecurity part. There is digital transformation, distributed cloud, IoT, and work from home. Professor Roy and Dipon both touched upon this topic. So my take would be that in IoT, if you look at a couple of data points, 30% of the total organization who has gone for digital transformation are on the maturity stage. So when I call the word maturity here is, is directly related to cyber security maturity. So, and what happened to the 70% of the organization? They are still in that particular journey and they are vulnerable. Similarly, if you look at the IoT inflation from a data point of view, 2019 they pumped in almost 900 billion worth of US dollars in the total business. And with the growth of 5G and different types of Wi-Fi technologies, this figure is going to be multiple trillions in coming 8 to 10 years. And that is creating a lot of opportunity for the cybersecurity professional, because IoT is going to be one of the most focused area for cybersecurity. Next is that what is the growth of distributed cloud market? Okay, it is 24.1% growth will happen because of the work from home culture, if not more. So this is a very reserved data. I have taken these data from HBR, Gartner, McKinsey, and Forbes. So the next is that it is saying, experts are saying that almost for many organizations, 90% of the workforce will work from home. So where it is indicating is that there are more opportunities for hackers to get into our home, and at the same time for defenders like cybersecurity professionals who will be defending their network, their devices, their servers and cloud. They have more work to do. They have more learning that they need to pursue. They need to build their skill. They need to advance their skill. And you have seen, I mentioned that in my first question what Nirupam asked me, that 600% rise in the Netflix customer base. Why? Because most of the customers or people who are working from home have subscribed to Netflix. Okay, so if you look at the business of Netflix pre-COVID and post-COVID, they have increased their business like phenomenal. Okay, because people are watching movie, everybody is at home, they are spending good times in front of the TV. So the subscription rate has increased, and that is the platform what hackers are using for phishing. Okay, they are sending SMS saying that you have discounts, you have this offer, that offer, click on this and avail that one. This is what kind of attack. And one of the slide where you can see the fake John Hopkins infected map. So John Hopkins is a healthcare institute where they used to monitor the spread of COVID. Okay, using a real-time world map. So that map was hacked, and that was infected with some data points. And what happened was the real-time data, whatever was injected into that particular slide or that particular map, was completely changed. So it was giving a completely wrong picture to the healthcare professionals. Okay, and they fall into the trap and they took wrong decision also. So that's how. And there have been significant increase of phishing email related to COVID vaccine. Hackers are behind. After COVID vaccine companies or websites, and coronavirus themed phishing emails have increased multiple times. So next, third is about the healthcare. Why I mentioned healthcare in cybersecurity is all the AI and ML technologies will be adopted or is going to be adopted or getting adopted by the healthcare industry. If you look at these three organizations, they are all MIT startups, Path AI, Freenom, and Analytic. These are phenomenal organizations just formed, and they can detect cancers much more accurately at a very, very short time. And these technologies will be used in pathological centers. Like, Analytic is a deep analytic software for radiologists. That means a brain scan, one single brain scan can tell, by using analytic, can tell that whether that person has a probability to get into insomnia or dementia or any kind of tumors in the brain in next 10 years. So it can predict that. Path AI is a cancer detection tool. By just one drop of blood, it can find that what is the probability of you getting cancer after 10 years, 15 years. So phenomenal output, very, very useful. Now imagine if cyber attacker changed the parameter of the report which has come out. That means a report which is clean, that means that person will not have cancer, and this malware has changed that parameter, and the report now is that that person can have cancer. Imagine the difference of feelings, difference of the way you are going to take medicine or preventive actions, everything will change. Okay, so that is where the danger is of using the latest technology in healthcare or anywhere else. And please remember that whatever technology you are using, hackers are using much more advanced technology, at least 5 years ahead of that. So if we are using AI today, they are using AI plus 5 years today. Okay, so that's the whole status right now. Last but not the least is, what are the skills do we need going forward? So probably, I'm sure that there might be many people here on this on this webinar looking for what kind of skills do we need to address the challenges I spoke about. So one of the skill is GRC, that is governance, risk and compliance. Then it can be a security auditor, it can be an incident response professional, it can be a SOC professional, which they spoke about. It can be a security specialist on IoT ecosystem. It can be a security software developer. Okay, you can build your career on cloud security, which is very, very common in today's scenario. You can be a good trainer on various security technologies. It can be a cyber forensic investigator. Okay, these are cutting edge technologies where and last but not the least is the red team capability. So there are 10 cybersecurity skills according to me is going to be the most sought after career going forward. So before I end my speech, just wanted to talk about what is the requirement or where is the demand coming from. If you look at this particular data, by 2021, 3.5 billion cybersecurity professionals are required, and believe me, out of this 3.5 billion, 1.4 billion is in India. So those who are in India, you should be happy about that. There are so many opportunities coming on cybersecurity. I mean, vacancies. The only thing what you need to do is that acquire right skill. Please plan accordingly, sir. And that is the intent for of this particular presentation. So before I end, this is my last slide. That what business demands from the security department. There is to understand the risk of to business. Okay, evidence-based data. That means you cannot use data which cannot be used as an evidence. Data protection and privacy maturity. An organization should move towards more maturity in terms of how they protect their data and privacy of the employee and other customers. Positive ROI. The security should deliver return on investment which is positive, and the security department should protect customers' data as well as their own data, organizations' data, and strive for cybersecurity leadership position. So these are the basic requirement from a security department by the business, and I think with the right skill, with cybersecurity, one can deliver that. So with that, I finished my delivery and hand it over back to Nirupan with this particular concluding statement that the ability to measure and improve cybersecurity effectiveness is at the heart of the trend that will shape the security industry in 2020 and beyond. So that's what from my side. Nirupan, over to you.
Thank you, Kushida. Very detailed presentation and very good analytics as well. As I said, we are running a little bit short of time, so I'll quickly hand it over to Mr. Rajiv Bhatnagar. This is one side where a few of us are very little aware of. That's the law side of it. So, Mr. Bhatnagar, if you can put in your slide deck and let us know about what are the cyber laws prevalent, etc. Thanks. Mr. Bhatnagar, before you begin, we'll have to come to a dead stop, say at around 6:12 or so. We'll keep just 2 or 3 minutes for the ending session. I don't think we'll get enough time to take questions because we've already exceeded the 6 o'clock slot. So you'll have to shape your presentation accordingly.
I'll be quick. Can you see my screen first?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me and congratulations for completing your centenary. Good to hear the experts and thank you, for the introduction to say that, we've heard about the technology. Let's now hear about the law on this as well. Because ultimately, from a lawyer's perspective, it's good to hear the technology part because we also get enlightened by the experts. I would want to share the legal part, what is prevalent in India. So, going forward, the presentation is divided in these five broad topics. Rather four. First one is just an introduction. What is the legal framework in India? What are the non-compliance risks involved? What are the kind of offences under the IT Act or the ancillary statutes? And what could be the mitigation strategies from a legal perspective? So, going ahead, what is digital world according to a layman and not just experts? Cyberspace will broadly encompass all information, devices, networks, resources, via which entities, people, we interact in the web world. Cyber security and cyber crime both are defined under the Information Technology Act. And cyber security is something, any method which is used to protect this cyberspace, be it for the information, be it protection of devices, be it protection of networks, resources, everything comes within the domain of cybersecurity. And cybercrime, like my other panelists also said, so any unlawful act which is committed via the cyberspace is part of cybercrime. Now, during this COVID-19 pandemic, we will all agree on one fact that the cyberspace has strengthened its position and importance. Today, working from home is a norm, and work from office is an exception. World has entirely moved into an online mode, but so has the crime, and there has been a steady surge in cyber crimes. There is also a potential, like the experts said, that there is potential. And recently I was hearing a news article where they said that the government of India is about to come out with a paper on a consolidated cybersecurity policy, which will help in these times. So going ahead, what is the legal framework in India which deals with the cyberspace? This is primarily divided into parts: cyber offences and contravention, and legislations and guidelines which deal with data protection and privacy. Going ahead, the first and foremost important legislation is obviously the Information Technology Act. It is divided into various subsections which deal with obligations, the authorities which will deal with the offences, and how things will move in this space. In this regard, one would want to first and foremost, just a second, yeah. So first and foremost is the certain rules. This is Indian Computer Emergency Response Team and manner of performing these functions. This applies to all intermediaries, vendors, internet and domain registrars, and other all kinds of organizations which are regulated by the authorities CERT, which primary function is to forecast and alert on cybersecurity incidents, provide emergency measures for handling cybersecurity incidents. CERT collects and analyzes and disseminates information related to cybersecurity incidents. What it also mandates is that all individuals, whether you are a single user, whether you are a corporate, whether you are a small-time company, if you have experienced a certain kind of a cybersecurity incident, you must report to share. Otherwise, this penalizes you. The second important legislation under the Information Technology Act are reasonable security practices and procedures for sensitive information rules, 2011. This is a guide for security-related compliances with respect to sensitive and personal information of individuals which are with companies, and therefore this prescribes a certain standard of certifications and protocols which any entity which is dealing with such data must put in place. And therefore, this is one of an important legislation which all companies and individuals dealing with sensitive and personal information of others must look into. Third legislation is the information security practices and procedures for protected systems. Now, what are protected systems? Protected systems are defined under Section 70 of the IT Act, and these are computer resources which directly or indirectly affects the facility of critical information infrastructure of the country. And critical information structure, when we say that, is some infrastructure which, if harmed, will have a severe impact on national security, economy, public health, and safety. So therefore, the government notifies various companies as protected systems, and for these protected systems, NCIIPC, that is the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, has issued guidelines, which primarily, as the experts spoke, there are various technologies which need to be put in place for the network to be stable, resilient, and scalable. It also directs that the protected systems, the organizations having protected systems must nominate a Chief Information Security Officer, which is commonly known as CISO, who will act as per the guidelines issued by NCIIPC. And both CISO and NCIIPC must act in tandem for ensuring that the compliance of rules are met. The next legislation has become extremely important in recent times, which are the blocking rules. It prescribes the procedures for blocking access to any website. And recently the government has used these blocking guidelines to a great extent, where the access to various websites have been blocked. Under this legislation, the joint secretary of the central government is deputed to issue orders on blocking access. And under this, while they may block without hearing you at the first instance, rules of natural justice, the review committee then passes a final order. I think there is some background noise. If others could mute themselves, it would be great. Then are the intermediary rules. Intermediaries in today's time, almost all marketplaces available online, various email service providers, and everybody do fall within the definition of an intermediary. And therefore, all companies dealing with third parties and their information must look into these guidelines as well, because they deal with what should be your privacy policies, what should be your terms of use, how will you report cyber incidents, how will you share the data, what kind of data you need to store, and especially an intermediary is specifically obligated to comply with summons issued by the government officer. So this is one area which you must look into. I'm not deep diving into it because I understand the time constraints. Otherwise, I would have deep dived and explained the intricacies of all this. This was the under the Information Technology Act, but there are other legislations which are on screen now, which also deal with the cyberspace. One of them is our Indian Penal Code, which was given to us by the Britishers. We still follow certain part of it for with respect to our cyberspace, because our IT Act is not that developed that it encompasses all kinds of offenses in it. So therefore, certain offenses do fall within both under IT and Indian Penal Code. But offenses which are specifically part of IT Act, you cannot go and prosecute somebody under the Indian Penal Code. Overlapping offense, if I may say so, is something like defamation. Earlier, defamation was part of the IT Act, but Supreme Court had struck down that provision under the IT Act. So today, defamation and every offense connected to it has become part of the Indian Penal Code. Then there are companies which are in working in cyberspace. Must also look into Companies Act 2013 and Companies Management and Administration Rules 2014, which primarily deal with e-votings and e-meetings of a company, and therefore it also directs that you put a particular designated officer of the company to comply with it and maintain the safety of your critical setup. And also it directs that there should be a risk management committee which should do an yearly meeting to assess its cybersecurity risks and put mitigation systems in place. So, having said that, there are other very niche circulars which are from RBI, SEBI, IRDAI, and for telecom companies. RBI has, similar to other guidelines, has also issued guidelines for banks and NBFCs, which are important if you are in that business. Second is SEBI has come out with 2 or 3 circulars applied to mutual fund and asset management brokers and depository participants for their security networks. Similarly, IRDAI, which is the regulatory company, where regulatory authority in the insurance sector, has come out for certain specific cybersecurity measures for insurance companies, mandating crisis management plan and audit. So, one, if you are following in any of these sectors, in addition to the previous, legislations that I discussed, you may have to also look into this and see what kind of obligations fall on you. Last is the telecom companies, while they are governed by various other specialized statutes, they also have been mandated in their license norms to comply with security measures like network security, authorized encryption, and especially a very important part of it is compliance of directions from government authorities, because today a lot of telecom companies have to provide data to government immediately upon a request being made by them. Moving on, what are the risks of non-compliances? I will not deep dive into it because of time constraints. But all these legislations, if you do not comply with them, then there is a problem. Then there is punishment, there is fine, there is imprisonment. So for CERT, there is punishment for imprisonment for FPTI and protected system rules violation. There is another punishment and compensation. Blocking rules is one of an extremely stringent aspect which is punishable with a huge imprisonment. And then intermediary guidelines are also penalizes you. IPC itself is something that penalizes you. CMA rules, in addition to being prosecuted for the alleged violation under the IT Act, this may also be treated as a potential breach of your director's liabilities and will entail additional penalties under the Companies Act. From a perspective, if you are seeing that as a company, your directors and officers in charge, they may be held liable here, and therefore one must look into it. RBI guidelines for NBFCs and banks are also stringent. They also have a potential prosecution and penalty. SEBI is another stringent, circular which prescribes a punishment for 5 years. IRDAI will lead to compensation being granted. Telecom licenses, if the conditions are breached, there are various options for telecom regulator, TRAI. It can revoke the license, it can penalize up to 50 crores. It can also direct prosecution under specific statutes like IPC and ITA. So statutory risks are quite high. And non-statutory risk, I think the other panelists had also touched upon, but I'll briefly comment upon it. Litigation is one that if you do not comply with it, you may be sued and you may have to deal with a particular litigation. Thanks to our judicial structure, litigation takes a hell lot of time. Loss of goodwill is another item where your consumers will lose confidence, will negatively review your company. You also lose business to your existing customers. Loss of future business is another area because prospective customers today, examine a lot of reviews online, and therefore, if there are any breaches, they may not want to align with you. Reprimand from regulators is a statutory risk, but in addition to that, it also creates a very hostile environment with the regulators. And therefore, even for areas where there is no breach, you may be seeing a very aggressive regulator, and that's not a good sign for any company. Last but not the least, if a litigation or any penalty is imposed, and you have to defend it by putting additional cost in legal teams, pay lawyers, put your internal dedicated teams for which man hours have to be capped there as well. So non-statutory risk must also be seen. What are the offences under the IT Act? So if we see offences, Section 43 is primarily civil action, and 43A, which is not part of this table but is also applicable to an intermediary, is also part of the civil action where compensation to the extent of 5 crores can be given, where the hacking or unauthorized downloading or deletion of computer online fraud, denial of service attack, system interference, unauthorized access, online fraud, hacking, copyright violations, all if happens, and either you are the company which or you are user or a company which is standing in the shoes of an accused, you could face action. 65 is tampering with the computer source code, which is punishable with 3 years or fine. 66 is a double jeopardy, I may say so, because 43, whatever is covered under 43, the first section that I referred, if the same act has been done dishonestly or fraudulently, that means if you caused any wrongful loss or wrongful gain to yourself, by any activity enlisted under Section 43, you are also liable for a 3-year imprisonment or a fine of 5 lakhs. 66B deals with receiving stolen computer resource or a communication device, which is punishable. Identity theft is another offense under Section 66C. Cheating by personation, where people issue emails, posing themselves to be somebody else, that is itself offense under IT Act, is punishable with 3 years. Violation of privacy is another offense which is punishable with 3 years. Cyber terrorism is an important aspect which is punishable with imprisonment for life, and therefore, it's a very stringent term there. Publication of obscene material or sexually explicit material or material depicting children with sexually explicit act is also extremely stringently dealt under the Act. Which entails punishment from 3 years to 7 years, and in addition to that, stringent fines. Intermediaries, must look from Section 67C onwards, where if they contravene any of these obligations which were enlisted earlier, they can be prosecuted, which entails an imprisonment for 3 years and fine. If they fail to provide comply with directions of a controller, if they fail to assist a concerned agency in interception or monitoring or decryption of any information, 7 years. Failure of intermediary to comply with directions issued for blocking. So if you do not block a particular website for public access, the punishment is very severe. Intermediaries contravention of monitoring and collection of traffic data is also 3 years of imprisonment. Then Section 70 is more stringent because this is directly affecting the critical infrastructure, which I had mentioned is the infrastructure, if harmed, will lead to severe damage to national security. So if somebody tries to secure access illegally to these systems or causes any damage, it is very stringently punished for 10 years. breach of confidentiality and privacy if done dishonestly, another imprisonment of 2 years. Disclosure of information, breach of a lawful contract. This is where your lawful contract with your customers, if you breach it and disclose in violation of the norms as well as your lawful contract, 3 years. One should also look into 84B, which is abatement of offences, and 84C, which is attempt. Both are in the realms where you may not be directly committing the offence, but by your conduct, you would have actively participated or allowed the offence to have been committed, where a company or a user can also become, become liable. And assuming, there are certain, like what I could hear from experts was that, SMSs which attempt to mislead you, that itself is punishable under the IT Act. 85 is something all companies must be take cognizance of it, because under this act, when I say that, if a company commits an offense, it is liable to be punished. Your officers, your directors, your officers in charge, your management, all can be made equally liable by invoking Section 85, and therefore whatever punishment is imposable on the company can be imposed on that officer or a director if he is found guilty. Or if he's a managing director, then he has to directly face the music, because he has no defense if the company is proved to be guilty. So one must be very wary that these offences do not stop at your organization level. There is a personal liability attached to all offences. Moving forward, certain offences may also fall under the IPC, which are not covered under the IT Act. These are like physical theft of equipment, or your own employees committing criminal breach of trust, which are also severely punishable under the IPC. Cheating, which leads to actual transfer of funds, is also punishable under IPC. Mischief, forgery for the purposes of harming reputation and cheating is also punishable. Defamation was earlier covered under the IT Act, but today it is not. So therefore, we have to fall back on our earlier statutes like IPC, because the Supreme Court had struck down that provision of defamation in IT Act, and therefore defamation today is purely within the domain of the IPC. So, having seen the legislation, having seen the risk, having seen the punishment, from a lawyer's perspective, while I heard the experts, and you have to put your technologies in place and see that you do not falter on any of that. What could be the legal mitigation strategies? Internally is I would divide it into internal, external, and general. From an internal perspective, comply with the minimum obligations as are applicable to a particular organization under the IT Act or these legislations that we have seen. Form a compliance, specific compliance team for cyberspace, and develop proper compliance programs, put specific cybersecurity programs with clear implementation process, which deal with security risks, threats, vulnerabilities, and impacts. Engage with experienced personnel and continuously train your own employees to upgrade their skills, and also to let them know their obligations and their personal risks which are involved. Last but not the least, please understand your own business model and goals, because lately what we are seeing is all big companies, our MNCs are working across the globe. They themselves don't know what is my business model, which entity is doing what. And therefore, at times as lawyers, when they come to us and when we question them that which is the entity which is going to respond, which is the entity which is custodian of the data, which is the entity which has given you the right to use a particular tool. So they are not aware, because they treat their entire group as one group. And in legal terms, that's not the correct way to do it. So therefore, please understand your own business model and connected entities, especially from a compliance team perspective, that they know what all entities are involved in my larger group, how do they function, what is the interconnection, and that will make your life easier going forward. Externally, if you put your internal processes and internal systems in place, you could always invest into commissioning an independent audit from time to time to see that your internal compliances are working well. Procure a cyber insurance which is readily available these days, and therefore, assuming that there was a risk which has precipitated, into an actual action against you, your cyber insurance will really help. Establish protocols for government requests, because when external agencies talk to your compliance teams and others, you sometimes falter in not responding in correct timelines, and therefore even assuming you are not in you have not breached any of your obligations under the statute, the mere delay itself leads to a lot of problem. I could have dealt into certain examples where a travel portal's entire business, was shifting money into a bank account which was frozen, not because they were in breach, but because they were, they delayed their response. Engage with third-party, experts and to maintain your security protocols. Deploy external team of lawyers and have regular meetings with them. And this, why I say this, that as a lawyer, when a new client comes to me, I have to first understand his business, his business model, his how his the data being accessed, who is the custodian of the data. And I can just quote one very small example. One of the biggest email chains of of the world, and they had data stored in US, and their Indian counterpart was given a notice by the Indian authorities. For us to understand the number of entities which were involved and ultimately which entity is going to respond, it took us time. And when we identified that, we actually found that there was a direct conflict between US laws and the Indian laws, and we could avoid presenting that data. Had we known that, if as an external team of lawyers there was a regular meeting with us, we would have identified that much earlier, and that delay of 1 or 2 months which happened in presenting the data would have actually been curtailed. Going forward, general mitigation strategies, like the experts told you, various tools by which you can avoid getting in trouble under these IT norms. Users should educate themselves on cyber offenses and threats. Users today should specifically see privacy policies and terms of use, because especially with respect to data privacy and your personal data, what are the norms put in your personal contracts and privacy policies are important for you. They are in fine print, but take some time to look into at least the important topics in those terms of use. I know everybody is not able to go through the entire document, but there are subheads which you must read. Secure your data and back it up, because tomorrow, if when sometimes when the offense has been committed, these are for users whose data has been erased, they have no backup. So sometimes it becomes really impossible because you have no evidence to provide to the court. And courts move purely on data which is admissible in law. So therefore, securing and backing up of data is not only a good practice from IT perspective, but it is also a very good practice from criminal law perspective. Avoid sharing details, clicking from unknown sources, keep antivirus, spyware software, firewalls updated, especially do your financial transactions through a secure network. And last but not the least, I would urge all users, all companies to come together and engage with the government authorities in having a very positive dialogue, and especially when the government, day before yesterday, I said that they will come out with a security policy. It will be good that we engage with the government in enhancement of punishments under the IT law, because IT law, all offences punishable with 3 years or less are variable in nature, and therefore most offences the accused doesn't even go to jail and till the time the trial is over. So therefore, enhancement of punishments, cross-border jurisdictional conflicts where your US counterpart is facing aggressive action from the Indian authorities can be avoided. Streamlining of data collection, training of investigators and establishing fast-track court suggestions, are very important, because experts like you, if they engage and they train the investigators, they train the fast track court judges, things will become very easy. Right now, the biggest roadblock is that even if you report an offense, the investigator doesn't know what the technology is. The fast track courts are sitting there. The judge has been appointed 20 years back. He doesn't know what the latest technology is. And frankly
So, sir,
speaking,
sorry to interrupt you. This session will come to a hard stop. The session will be over by 6:30, so we won't get time to speak as well. So you have to finish up in maybe in 1 minute or so. That was kind of an abrupt stop, but anyway, I gave you 1 minute to finish off. So thank you very much to Mr. Bhatnagar. That was a detailed presentation as well. We learned a lot of things. Sorry to have stopped you abruptly, but we have the session till 6:30, so that's why I had to put in a hard stop there. But anyway, thank you to the other panelists, Professor Shri Ajay Kumar Roy, Mr. Kaushik Nath from Cisco, Deep Kumar Roy from Cognizant, and I would like to hand it over to Mr. Kalipada Das, who is the Honorary Secretary of West Bengal State Chapter, for his vote of thanks, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, nice. Respected dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. I deem it to be a great pleasure and proud right privilege to extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to all the distinguished panelists and participants who have joined today with us in the webinar Cybersecurity, a critical skill to protect your business. Today, when we are discussing with the chairman and his team regarding this webinar, the topic was considered in such a way, when we are in the verge of digital transformation, we understand cybersecurity is a need of the day, and credit goes to Nirmal Das to arrange the panelists like Padmasri Professor Dr. Ajay Kumar Roy, who is the former director of my alma mater, also IST Shivpur, and he has very nicely deliberated on the cybersecurity in digital market, while Mr. Dev Kumar Roy has very nicely deliberated on the threat and identifications, who is actually the Associate Director of Cognizant. Thanks to Mr. Roy for your nice presentation. Thanks also to Mr. Kaushik Nath, who is the Cyber Security Solution Architect from Cisco System Kolkata. His presentation was Cyber Security Trend Analysis. Actually, Mr. Nirupam has very nicely told, without the analysis, we cannot understand what the cyber security actually we have to take care. And then Mr. Rajiv Bhatnagar, who has discussed about the legal part of the cyber security for running your business, protect your business. Thanks to all the panelists for their nice presentation, and thanks to Mr. Nirupam Sen, who is the head of Eastern Region of British Standard Institutions, for nicely moderate the total program. My special thanks to all the council members, corporate members of the state committee members of West Bengal State Center. Thanks to the chairman and secretaries of different state and local centers of IEI. My special thanks also goes to the director technical Dr. Nilanjan Sengupta and his team for their untiring effort to make the program a grand success. And if I do not mention the support of NSDF, thanks goes to the chairman and special thanks to Devraj for nicely conducting today's webinar. Actually, they have a very good team to organize this webinar. Thanks to them also. My special thanks to the chairman of West Bengal State Center, Mr. Sandeep Kumar Dev, who has inspired us for arranging different seminars. As because of this pandemic situation, we are forced to arrange all this through this webinar mode online platform. Thanks to Mr. R.N. Lahiri and Mr. the advisor of Computer Engineering Division Board of West Bengal State Center and Chairman Mr. Nirmal Das for arranging this program. If I do not, if I inadvertently miss some of them, who has also directly or indirectly helped us to make the program a grand success. Thank you all once again. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Unmuted.
Thank you again, sir.
And one announcement, tomorrow we had may I talk?
Yes, please.
Tomorrow, our computer engineering division is also arranged another webinar on cyber attack, how to be safe. At the same time, I think all of you have already registered. It is a free registration for all of you. Please join us tomorrow's program also.
Sir, on behalf of NSDF, I am Director NSDF Vishwamohan Joshi. I heartily congratulate you all for this wonderful webinar. This is a very lively topic on cyber security, and I would request West Bengal State Center to again sometime later do such one more webinar on this topic. Today we have seen some our guest speakers being left out. So I suggest that we will take them also, and next time we will have a strict time monitoring so that we can complete all this webinar in a very effective manner. Today, all the speakers which I have been able to hear, this was a wonderful presentation on all your part. One thing I may request, till date we have only 701 subscriptions to our YouTube channel, that is National Skill Development Forum. I request all of you to please subscribe to our channel. This is National Skill Development Forum on YouTube. And you can see, you can see your presentation live or recorded in this National Skill Development Forum channel anytime you have. And thank you very much for the nice presentation and your all support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yashiji, for your nice support. Okay, now we can close the program.
Yes,
to
sir.
the Chairman, Computer Engineering Division.
Okay.
Remember,
In the end of today's session.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Yashiji, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Thanks
you,
to
sir.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, sir. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Okay.